2 hours on this?
Here's a conventional question, and let's see who has a new mind answer. How has your week been?
What week?
Unbelievable.
That's the exact answer I was looking for. What week? So how is your moment?
Well, there's a moment.
That's right. That's good.
The moment is.
Everybody's smiling. Well, maybe, you know what, maybe we'll do a quick introduction. Sharon, you want to? Sharon.
I'm Sharon.
Jim.
Linda.
Robert.
Eric.
Richard.
Marika? Regina.
Dave.
Right, thank you. We'll just wait a few more minutes for the beginning. There's two ladies, I think, leading ladies that were recently coming, so.
I've got a question before I go. What does RVCA stand for?
I don't know.
Nobody knows.
Who cares?
Hey, Jim, what would you like to hear? What would you like to hear?
Well, I went into the store that sold. I mean, there's a store. I went in. I said, I asked the guy, what does this stand for? I see it all over.
They
Oh, really?
do that. They make a lot of skate stuff and
It's like
some
a
surf
brand.
stuff. Yeah, it's like skate and
It's a brand, it's not a brand.
brand, yeah.
It's a brand, so the
I'm not
letters
sure
really
what
don't
they-
stand.
I'm not sure what they make, like skate or surf parts. Shirts, maybe shirts. Lots of shirts.
What they are on now? Reality versus
Conventional.
conventional.
Almost there. 3 out of 4.
Yeah, really.
Awareness.
Oh, ah.
8
Ah,
less
that's
and
a
more.
Wait,
Yeah.
I didn't even know.
Yeah. Well, okay, so we start with the question. Anybody has a question? Usually we hit on the newcomers. So we're going to bother you until you get some words out.
Sure.
So why are you here?
Why am I here? To be around more people thinking like this.
You don't even know what we think like. You're going to be shocked when you hear us.
Maybe.
Yeah. No, you must have, you joined our group, right?
Yeah, last week.
Right.
Last week. So, yeah. I went through an awakening a couple of years ago, which blew the top off my head. And so now I find myself in these groups a little bit, seeing, what else other people have experienced.
Right.
And
So you don't feel alone.
integrating,
in the word.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Integrating the new awareness into modern life.
Right. Can I ask you briefly what was that experience, the awakening?
What was it?
Referring to, yeah.
After research, was a spontaneous Kundalini awakening.
Spontaneous.
Kundalini.
What does that mean?
Basically, I didn't sleep for 21 days. I heated up in the core for over 3 months, sweating to the point to where I was full of energy. I stopped even trying to go to sleep. And then I decided to do everything opposite. Whatever I was doing, I'll just do it opposite. So sleep in the day, that didn't work either. Breakfast for dinner for breakfast, old foods, no, new foods, yes. And something happened in the course of 21 days of not sleeping, where the energy level got crazy. I started typing, I didn't know what I was typing. Words were coming at me saying, don't worry about it, everything's going to be great. My head filled the room, white light, and information was received, and I felt complete love, compassion, forgiveness. I felt forgiven from everything that I've ever done. It was like a clean slate, and I knew at that point everything was going to be okay, no matter what. It didn't matter. Like nothing mattered the way I thought, because I was always taken care of, and I was willing to stop worrying about anything.
Right. That's incredible. That's amazing.
Yeah.
21 days without sleep.
21 days.
And it's okay if I ask what impelled this event or series of events?
Yeah, severe pain, not living my life, you know, getting caught up in doing things that I didn't agree with, but kept trying to do them and it wasn't working, and I just kind of was trying to give up. And I was really trying to work through the pain. I was reading books about who you really are and see what I could do. And in the course of that, it just kind of lined up. I didn't know what was happening. It was happening for years, but it intensified. And, you know, blew off the cap during that. But looking back, it was starting to happen for a few years subtly until I really embraced it, just went with it. And I would hike around up in the hills at night. I'd bring my tent, I'd pitch a tent up in the hills, and I'd come back in the morning. Yeah, and I wanted to quit my job, but you know, I didn't.
Somebody had to pay the bills.
Yeah, no, I almost wanted to just check out of everything because nothing mattered, but something told me not integrated. Running away, escaping was not, you know, it's not going to get me where I want to go.
The fight or flight doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, so integrate.
Right.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Great. Thanks for sharing.
Sure.
That's amazing. Yeah. That's a good story.
Yeah, it's intense.
Right.
It took me 2 years to fade.
Yeah.
So it went up, peaked, and then,
Right.
you know, I don't think it faded. I think I kind of attuned more to it, to where, I mean, I was seeing angels. I mean, I was seeing all kinds of things. It was crazy. And so I don't see that now, but I know it's there.
Yeah. That's not what happens at the peak of chaos, and you over-emerge.
Yeah, and I kind of just gave up a lot. I just
Surrender.
Complete
Surrender.
surrender, yeah. Without even knowing what surrender was. I mean, I did not know any of this information. You know, I was doing the rat race.
Right.
Now I know. Oh, I surrendered.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Last week we discussed the magic detachment. I mean, detaching is another word for surrender. To let go of things, or aspirations, or whatever it is, and just surrender, basically, detachment does. And the deepest part of detachment is when we detach from our thoughts, when we're able to let go of our thoughts, because really everything that we experience in life is processed or exists in the form of thoughts in our heads. So when we're able to detach from our thoughts, we really detach from everything else. Even the mere touch creates a thought in your head, and that's how you know you're touching something. So if you're detached from that thought, you're automatically detached from that object in the conventional realm of things.
Yeah,
So,
I'm stoked about that because I'm in the process of doing that.
right. And it gets really tricky.
All
right.
kinds of tricks.
Right. Yeah.
Trick
Well, it
us
becomes
all
very
the time.
confusing.
Yeah.
You know, what are thoughts? And are thoughts detaching from thoughts? Are you
That's a
detaching
thought.
from thoughts? That's a thought. Right, exactly. Yeah. So how did everyone do last? We're gonna talk about last week, or at this moment. Do you feel more detached, or have you experienced less attachment to your thoughts, where the concept of those are my thoughts. I am responsible for those thoughts, or I take credit or be blamed for those thoughts. Did you experience any sense of detachment at all from? I'm sure it's probably certain incidents where you caught your brain thinking and realize that this is just a thought.
That happened often.
This last week.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Really?
oh, maybe you say up all day.
And whoever is with you is looking at you and saying, is he having the hiccups?
Waking
Internal
up.
hiccups.
Waking up? No. What? No. Not that.
That's amazing. Wow.
I have a quote for that. You are not the keeper of your thoughts.
You're not even a producer of your thoughts, let alone being the
No,
keeper
you're
of your
not.
thoughts. Right. What about the rest? How did that go for you?
Well, I was getting more moments of awareness, but the awareness was, God, I'd love to detach from that fog.
Right.
This was a pretty busy week for me. A lot of extra stuff going on, so.
Yeah, and that's a golden opportunity to, but you get entangled with
Yeah.
this kind of stuff.
It's a
and-
great week to get tangled up.
Right, yeah.
But
The awareness of, I'm just, okay, there's a thought, but it's like, that's all I can come up with is just the thought. I don't have a real awareness. It's like, oh, okay, you're supposed to be here now, be aware. But it's just a thought of be here now. It's not,
Right.
it's not
Experience.
experience, yeah. And, and that's kind of what I'm just turning right around there.
Right, but those are the layers of the thought that we're going to talk about today, is when you have a thought of an experience, and then you have a thought that this is a thought. That's the second layer in the layers of thoughts. So you step in now. So thinking that this is just a thought. But don't forget what takes you from one step to a step, which we call change. Going from one step to another, or one layer to another, is the change. Right? You're changing this monotone. And so if you're thinking, and then you realize that it's just a thought, and another thought comes up which says this is just a thought, there's a change, there's a shift inward. What impels that shift is the awareness, right? You became aware that this is just a thought, and then another thought came in. So now you went one step inward instead of keeping your focus outward. So that's a great indication that you are going inward. You're going in the opposite direction of everyone else in this world that just keeps going outward. So going one step inward, what would the next step be? What would the next layer of thought be? So you have a thought of an experience, and then now you have an awareness that brought about a new thought. This is just a thought. Now step back inward. Go another step in. Now become aware of that second thought. Can you conceive that? Or you can try it now. You can try to do that now. So I'm sure every single person, including myself, we're thinking at this moment. There is a thought going on in our heads right now. Okay? There's a thought. Are you able to catch that thought? Are you able to recognize that thought? Even if you're judging me, if you're looking at me, looking at my glasses or my shirt, or whatever it is, because sometimes when we're looking at people, we're seeing colors, we're seeing shapes, things like that, and there are those thoughts going on at the unconscious level. Are you able to, like for instance now, I'm saying this, I passed my eyes looking at Robert, and I looked at his blue shirt. I noticed his blue shirt. And I immediately became aware while I'm still talking that I just noticed Richard's glasses, for instance. I'm just saying as it's happening. And I'm realizing that I noticed his blue shirt. That was a thought of a blue shirt. That was a thought of glasses. And at the same time as I'm expressing this to you, I'm recognizing that I'm explaining to you of what I'm explaining to you what I was thinking of that thought. And at the same time, I'm aware of that thought. So try to go through those layers. See if you can practice that and focus on it. No matter where your eyes are. Actually, it's better to have your eyes open than closed. Try to catch a thought right now. And recognize it's a thought. Now another thought came in. Try to catch the next thought. And the next thought. Don't give up. Keep going. Keep going. That's what gets you stuck in that awareness after awareness after awareness, thought after, and between there are thoughts. Don't give up on it. And if you give up on it, it's because your brain got entangled again in the outer world. How long can you take this? Are you aware that you're laughing? Are you aware of the thought that makes you laugh? And now there's a new thought. Be aware of that. And there's another thought. Don't let go. Hold on to the string of thought and awareness continuity. Where is the end of the road? Where do you end?
No thought. The end of the road is no thought.
Did you experience no thought?
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't get that far.
No, that's why I want to know. How far are you going in your mind? Are you able to catch how far you're going inward?
I can catch it when I'm sitting here and all of a sudden I feel like I woke up from a dream because I know I actually didn't think for a half a second and everything was, there's nothing going on. And I come back to a thought, I'm like, whoa, I actually went into no thought.
Right.
But I could not tell I was in no thought until I came back out. Because I wasn't thinking.
Right.
Lasts like generally less than a second.
Right. And the other way, first other way also, you wouldn't know that you're thinking until you become aware that you're thinking. You know, I get lost in thought for a few minutes, and I'm not aware that I'm thinking until I become aware, and I go, I was thinking for that long? Without being aware that I was thinking? It's both ways. So, right. And when you're in the state of that awareness, you said half a minute or whatever the duration is, when you're in that state, you wouldn't know that you're aware because you were not thinking. To know that you're aware, you do not need to think. To be aware of being aware is the knowingness that you're in the state of awareness. So be aware of being aware. Beyond thought. That's the feeling of presence. That's you feel that there's presence. There is something beyond anything you see, anything you hear, anything you think. There is that sensation of real presence. That's when we talk presence. So presence is not a thought. Presence is an actual state, is an actual experience. It's an actual experience. So try, although I'm telling you try, no matter how much you try, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen on its own. But nevertheless, if you try and it happens on its own, it happens on its own. Whether you try or not. So you could be trying or not trying, and it might happen.
All rise.
I object. I'm so glad to be here. Hi, everybody. I'll shut up.
Raise your right hand.
No, I don't swear and I don't tell the truth.
Oh, you're sorry.
There is no truth.
Sit in front of the blackboard.
So we're talking about being aware of the layers of our thoughts, one layer at a time, going inward. So if you're aware of my voice now, try to pay attention of what you're thinking about what you're hearing. Now what I'm saying, there's a thought being processed there. Become aware of that thought. You almost become numb to the voice that you're listening to, and your focus, your awareness, is on the thought that's being produced by this voice, or an image. And often, whenever there is an input from a sensation, whether it's touch, smell, vision, whatever it is, there is an instant occurring thought of judgment. Thoughts really, if you really want to put it under the microscope, thoughts are judgments. All thoughts are judgments. Think about it. Think about it. See, now you're judging whether it's a judgment.
Actually, I was thinking about something else. And I'd like to bring it up here is that when we translate sounds into language that we can understand, what level of awareness is that? I mean, we do that without being aware that we are listening to sounds, translating them into a language we can understand to create the thought. So there is a level there, a basic level of awareness there that we can translate sounds into English that we understand and therefore create associations and so forth. Correct?
Right. You know, anything that you sense through your five senses is translated into electrical pulses. Zeros and ones, so to speak, just like a computer. And when those patterns of zeros and ones, which is a negative charge or a positive charge or on and off, however you want to scientifically define it. So those electrical pulses that reach your brain through your nervous system, your wires, are already thoughts, because thoughts are electrical pulses. It's just that when they reach the brain, this brain takes those patterns and tries to associate them with patterns that already exist there through genetic programming and conditioning. And then it says, I know what this is. It judges it immediately. This is blue. Those are glasses. This feels right. This doesn't feel right. This threatens me. This doesn't threaten me. Even words or any situation you experience. So it's those electrical pulses, as once they enter the brain, they are associated, they are matched with patterns in the library of information, which is genetics and conditioning. And then it matches them based on judgment. I like this, I don't like this. This is right, this is wrong. Whatever it is. So as soon as you touch something, the thought begins there. It's electrical pulses. So now I'm touching this, electrical pulse is going through my nervous system, coming to my brain, and my brain is identifying this
Which
as
is a judgment.
rigid, as metal, as something I'm familiar with. It doesn't scare me. I'm not afraid of this because I'm associating with something I already know. So this is not going to threaten me. So I keep my hand. If you touch something and suddenly that your brain does not associate it with anything else, you instantly take your hand off because it threatens you. So it's all judgments. So the thought begins as soon as there is an input. It begins there.
What about our level of awareness when we're sleeping without dreaming? There's no thought there. Where are we at there?
Your brain is constantly producing unconscious thoughts. Your body, while you're sleeping, although there is no subconscious thoughts, what you're talking about are subconscious thoughts that you recognize, but we don't recognize our unconscious thoughts. Unconscious thoughts, as we're talking here, even if I go in a state of awareness, my unconscious brain is constantly receiving information from within my body, even when you're sleeping and you shut all your five senses out. But within your body, there are wars going on in there. There's all kind of signals coming from your organs to your brain, and your brain is responding to that. All of that is unconscious thoughts. The brain, the only way the brain will stop any type of thoughts, which is any type of electrical conductivity, is when it dies. But when you dream, I mean, you might be having a lot of dreams that you won't remember because they're so subtle that your subconsciousness wouldn't catch. But even if you're not dreaming, your brain is still producing millions and millions of thoughts per second. It doesn't sleep. Yeah, because it's receiving all kind of signals from its body and within its own cell. I mean, those cells are alive. You know, those cells in the brain aren't sleeping. They work hard 24 hours a day. But in either case, so to become conscious of your subconscious thoughts is what we're talking about here. But we also can go even deeper and become conscious of your unconscious thoughts. Become aware of your unconscious thoughts.
It's heavy.
Right. And that's when, for instance, if you feel pain, sometimes if you're busy, you cut yourself, you wouldn't even feel it because the brain received this pain and it was thinking, you know, it matched it with something else before that it is danger. It needs to send those white blood cells to protect it from bacteria, whatever it is, and start the healing process. So there is all kind of stuff happening, and your brain is in the subconscious state. You're not even paying attention to this. You have no idea you cut yourself, and you're not aware of those unconscious thoughts. But there's a state of consciousness where you become aware of the brain dealing with unconscious events within your body or within the outside world. And this is almost, to science, it's almost an impossible state. It's almost an impossible state.
What about intuition?
What about?
Would that be a subconscious thought that you are not receiving, but yet the body's receiving, the mind is not receiving it?
Right.
And it says go here, but you're like,
Why am I doing
why
this?
am I doing
Right.
this?
Right. Yeah, that's a subconscious. Any thought is a subconscious. I mean, you only have unconscious thoughts or subconscious thoughts. So the intuition, an inner drive, it could come from the brain itself, a memory that's dormant and awakens, for instance, triggered by some certain event that you're not aware of. Or it could come from a deeper source, so to speak, God speaks to you. For instance, all those avatars that are using said God spoke to you. What they mean is intuition, thoughts that come from an inner place, from somewhere that's other than anything from the outer world. Once a thought appears, it's a subconscious thought, then you become aware of that thought. You become conscious of that thought. But that's when you are in the state of instrumentality, when your brain is an instrument and it receives some kind of a impellent or drive, and then it's translated into a thought in the head. But yeah, intuition is real. Absolutely. Looks like you had those experiences, intuitions.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, my thoughts are my thoughts, but what's, underneath what I don't think of is something that I try to bring into the mind, but it doesn't get there, so I just have to go with this feeling. And if I go with the feeling, it turns out to be right. Of course, there was no logical reason to do that. And so it's a thought, yeah, but it's a thought that I'm not perceiving in my mind. I'm perceiving it somewhere else.
It's just a feeling.
Yeah.
A drive.
Yeah. But it's there. And it's a thought, but what is the thought? You don't know what the thought is. You just know that, I got to do this.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right, and that's what happens when a person becomes awakened. Or you reach, as you near the state of consciousness, you start going by impellence, by inner drive more than rational. You start rationalizing things less and less. They don't have to make sense anymore. I do a lot of stuff in my life that does not make any sense to anyone, and everybody thinks I'm an idiot. It's like, you don't make any sense. Why are you doing this? And then nothing can stop me from doing that thing that doesn't make any sense. It's just I'm driven to do it. And that's what happens. You start having those intuitions. There's still thoughts. But there are unassociated thoughts. So if you learn throughout your life that, like we use the example of going to an intersection and you go to the left, there is a jungle, a wide jungle, and you go to the right, there is a safe city. Right? We've been programmed that if you come to this intersection, you need to go to the safe city because that's where you're safe. In the jungle, you get eaten by lions. Right? But if you are connected, if you are being instrumentally connected to the consciousness, and there is an objective for you, there is a purpose, and you have a drive to go to the jungle, to make left, to go to this wide place in the forest, your brain tries to rationalize this and say, wait a second, it's not matching. I'm associating it with what I learned, with how I'm programmed. It's not matching. I'm supposed to go there. But the drive, the inner drive that you have, overwhelms your rational thinking. That happened to me again and again, when I try to rationalize things, but no matter how much I rationalize it, I'm still driven to do the opposite. I'm still driven to do the thing that does not make sense. And my brain gets confused. But yet there is something pushing me in that, and then you just let go, and you just do what you feel like doing. So don't ignore your inner callings. If you're called to do something, whether in a family situation or a financial situation, whatever it is, and it does not feel right, pay attention to that feeling. Really pay attention to it. Don't ignore it, because your rational mind will try to make sense out of doing the opposite to what you're feeling. Because what you're feeling is not what I've been programmed to do. So your rational mind,
second guess yourself. Like the rational thoughts make you second guess yourself.
Right, exactly. Right. So you all have this intuition, believe me, but it's often ignored. So whenever you want to make a choice or decision, before you say, what should I think? How should I make my choices? What am I feeling about this? You know, however you want to, the feeling is still a thought, but it's a thought that's coming from a different place, listening to what we call intuition or insight. What am I feeling about it? Pay attention to that and empower it until at the end, either your rational mind will take over or your inner drive will win. But if your rational mind is too strong because you are in a subconscious state, it will win almost instantly. At the end, the end result, this is all just so you don't struggle in life. But at the end results is really no matter what you choose to do, whether it's a rational thought or you go with your feeling, at the end, it's exactly what it needs to be. Even if you say, oh, I wish I did this or did that, at the end, it really doesn't matter. What you end up experiencing being done is really what the consciousness wants to do. You're just going through this transformational process. But also at the end, you'll end up being more in tune to your intuition, to your inner drive, and become more effective as an instrument. You become more effective once you reach that level. I'm doing this especially for Robert and David, since you knew here. This is, I used to draw this here, but I put it here so I can explain it faster so everybody else see this before. This is a human mind. And people say, okay, why aren't we just conscious beings? Why do we have to go through a brain and an unconscious mind and a subconscious mind, the ego, and I mean, you know, we shouldn't have the ego. But the ego is as important as everything else is here. The subconscious mind is what we call ego. The unconscious mind is what I just explained earlier. And then you have the brain. So you have the word of form, which is the word of thought. And out of this word of form, which is a universe, or the cosmos, or existence, emerged the brain through evolutionary processes, however you want to define evolution. And from the brain, like animals had a brain that were just unconscious, basically, just for survivorship. There is no rational thinking, there is no subconscious thinking. Then emerges subconsciousness, which is the ego. But think about it as a portal, as an entrance. This whole thing, really, is God or consciousness is building a portal, an entrance, into the conventional world, into the world of form. So it had to build the brain, it had to build the unconscious mind, it had to build the subconscious mind. Those two souls, what we call voussoirs, they had to be there in order to have the portal. And now what's happening is the keystone, which is a conscious mind, your consciousness, the awakening, is being placed. Once this is placed, to build this, before you put this, you need a scaffold, right? You need beams. Think of it just like building, what do you call this? An arch, right? Just like building an arch. So to build an arch, before you put the last stone, you need a scaffold. You need the beams and the bars to hold those stones. But once the consciousness, once that awakening happens, and the consciousness is placed, the keystone is placed, then you no longer need a scaffold. The scaffold just falls apart or dissipates. And then when all this is gone, the light, which is consciousness, goes through this portal into the world of thought, which is the world of form, through your state of mind, clear and strong, basically, the white light, which is unconditioned love, peace, consciousness, basically, new possibilities and all that stuff. So the ego, the me and my, the right and wrong, the cause and effect, past and future, and separatism is what filters this consciousness that comes through us. So as long as you're dealing with me and mine, as long as you recognize that you're dealing with right and wrong, as long as you just say right and wrong, as long as you think of the past and the future, as long as you believe that you have to cause an effect, you have to cause something to see an effect, then you are then this has not been placed. Then this is not called awakening. So a lot of people say I've been awakened. And because it came as a thought, I've been awakened. I went through this and I said, I thought I was awakened many, many years ago. But then when I started discovering that I'm still dealing with me and mine, my family, my country, my whatever, people. And then when I noticed I was still judging right from wrong, thinking of the past and the future, and thinking that I can only make change, I can only experience change by cause and effect, then I knew that I was a hypocrite. I was lying to myself when I said I was awakened. I wasn't awakened. I started having thoughts of awakening. But awakening is an entire state. It's beyond thought. Awakening is when you don't see right from wrong. Awakening is when this keystone has been placed and is holding the complete mind together that evolution has been trying to build forever, since forever. When this stone is placed, you are in a new state. You are in the state of a new mind and new reality. You will experience that this stuff starts falling apart. You can no longer, your mind can no longer judge right from wrong. Even if there is a tiny little bit of your unconscious or subconscious brain that still wants to judge right and wrong, you will struggle with judging right and wrong, right from wrong. You can't. You can't see the bad and the good. It just all is. It's in the state of perfection. It's all is. And you won't be thinking of the past or the future. And that's what I've experienced in the last few years. I've been just having the drive. I don't want to look at photographs anymore. Honestly. I have a lot of albums and I put photographs. And maybe 8 years ago, so I just gave up on putting photographs in albums. So I have them in a big drawer on top of each other everywhere.
I've had that a long time.
You have that experience?
It's a graveyard to me.
Right.
The past.
Right.
Especially the photo thing.
Yeah, and where some people are very attached to photos. They keep opening the album and looking at family members at events and remembering the past and feeling good about it and feeling, those were the old good days, the good old days, whatever it is. But just about a couple of years ago and so on, when I want to look at the photo, it felt silly, has no objective. Why am I looking at the photo?
Wow.
My family goes crazy.
I always felt that way.
Right. I mean,
Even more so than, if my house burnt down, the photos, I wouldn't be grabbing a photo out.
I thought of that. I honestly thought of that. I thought of it, the very simple. I told in her fight, if my house catches on fire, would I want to take my albums out? I said, no, that would be a great opportunity to get rid of them.
Yeah, exactly. Without looking like a moron.
Right, without feeling guilty of throwing it in the trash can, right? Right. Yeah.
Because Johnny, I never took photographs, and I thought I was weird. I don't have any. I've never all my life, never been drawn to it, and I thought, oh God, dear.
Right. No, that's a great indication that you're detached from the past. But at the same time, we have other attachments to the past. Photos are the least of our worries, right? Exactly. It's all in here. Our attachments, for instance.
So the whole fad of a selfie is like a perfect low consciousness, right?
Ego.
Self-consciousness. Right. Yeah. But some of the most clinging experiences of the past that cling with us into the present are resentment, and resentment and anger.
Regret.
Anger is regret. Right. Resentment and regret. That's the
Okay, so what about post-traumatic stress syndrome?
what about it?
Well, I mean, from what I've heard and from what I've experienced, that's not an easy one to kick.
Like what example?
Well, I mean, when a person is experiencing it, and I've seen people from more experience it, your brain is running chemicals in your system, and to have the thought, okay, stop that. It doesn't make sense to get triggered by a gunshot, or it doesn't work. It's not it seems like a more powerful,
More intense.
yes.
Right. Yeah. There is nothing too challenging for the consciousness. Once the consciousness, once this stone starts lowering down in its slot, and finally it gets placed, doesn't matter what it is. Even if you have a mental disorder or whatever it is, it's all clear. Because this doesn't deal with mechanism. All we're talking about is mechanism. This is something beyond cause and effect. Mechanism means cause and effect. The remedy that comes, the permanent remedy that comes to everything of that sort, so the separatism or pacification, comes from beyond the cause and effect, beyond mechanism. There is no mechanism there. Now, to explain how that does happen, synchronicity or manifestation, or how does a miracle come about, to explain it in words is deceiving oneself. Because our brain cannot rationalize it. It's just to experience it. Once you experience it over and over, it becomes an understanding beyond rationalizing it. It just becomes an understanding based on experience. Understanding is a knowingness. You just know that there is such a reality. You just know that it's beyond the thought, beyond an isolated incident either.
Could that stress, like post-traumatic stress, be an interior fight between your ego and your true self? Like the ego was wounded during that stress, and the ego is trying to fight back and survive. And some people can break out, and some people can fight this forever.
That's right.
It's like an it's real inner struggle.
That's right. Yeah, of course. But once that leap of awakening, however it's going to be bestowed upon you, once that experience of awakening happens, meaning you become aware of being aware, you go beyond thought. Awakening meaning you go beyond thought. I say beyond thought. Once you reach that level, all of this, the ego, the resentment, the anger, the fight, whatever, it's just start dissipating on its own. And your brain wouldn't have the drive anymore, the cause and effect, to try to get rid of, those struggles. It knows now. It knows that they are in the process of dissipating, dissolving right on their own, and you become just at peace with the struggle because you watch it as it melts away, like a candle. The candle is gonna, at the end, gonna go down, and the fire is gonna go out.
Well, I know all that, but I see people struggle through that, and they struggle for years,
Right.
like that, and the consciousness is blind,
Right, because they haven't. This keystone is still up, hasn't been placed. The awakening hasn't happened yet, and all of this is still in place. Now, if you shine the light, if I have a flashlight from here, let's say the light is consciousness, and I'm shining it, let's say this is glass, and you have all of this here, and I'm shining the light from the back, and whatever is projecting, this is the screen, let's say, this is after this. So whatever is projecting into the world of form is going to broken up. The light is going to be broken up into bits and pieces on the wall, the screen, because you have so much stuff in between, right? So many obstacles. So it's going to be broken up. It's going to be broken up. You won't see that clear consciousness. You see all kind of colors, pieces, and bits. And this is what creates the world of separatism, pieces and bits here and there. And you're struggling with that. You're trying to put the pieces and bits together. You're trying to make them whole. You're trying to make the consciousness whole in your life. And you're struggling with it. There's only one way for that struggle to go away, is for this scaffold to come down. And there's only one way for this scaffold to come down, is when this keystone is placed, when awakening happens. And all of this happens on its own. You mentioned earlier in the beginning a dream, about being in a dream. We talked about this last Sunday. Just like when you wake up from a dream, and you know that the whole dream, everything that was in the dream, the people, the events, the pain, the laughter, whatever it was in the dream, was only you, was only your thoughts, right? None of it was real. So all of this reality, world of thought, all of our thoughts, and everything we experience, which are our thoughts, are the dream of God. Who awakens from that dream? Who awakens? When we say we awaken from this world of form, when we awaken, right? We awaken from this world of form, and we awaken to a reality of consciousness, of purity.
heart.
Whose dream is it? This reality is God's dream. And to awaken to this dream, to know that it's just a dream, God is the one that awakens. Not the brain. God. God awakens. God awakens. God has 7 billion dreams going on at the same time. Let's put it this way. Right? This is the population of the world, 7 billion people. God has 7 billion dreams. And God awakens to one dream at a time through the new humans. When you get awakened, it's not the brain that gets awakened. It's God. It's a consciousness. It gets awakened through this instrument. Just like you awaken to the dream that your brain is having, God awakens to the dream that it's having through this, we call it brain. So if God is the one that awakens from this dream and becomes your brain's experience, this awakening becomes your brain's experience. Your brain is only experiencing this awakening. The brain doesn't awaken, it just becomes an experience for the brain. So what is it for you to do to awaken yourself? And that's when I tried to awaken myself. I tried so hard to awaken myself, I started having psychological issues. I honestly had psychological problems. I couldn't sleep at night. I'm sweating. I'm feeling I'm going to go crazy. I was afraid I'm going to go crazy. I'm going to go to a mental ward. Yeah. Because my brain is trying to awaken. It's like being in a dream. It's like you have a character in a dream, and that character in the dream is trying to get itself out of the dream. It can't. It did not make the dream to begin with. It did not invent the dream. This is exactly how it is. It's like you have a character in a dream that's trying, it's being chased by someone. You know, you have those dreams where you chase someone, and you have this character in the dream, whether it's you or someone else, that's being chased by someone else, and that character just wants to get the heck out of that dream, to awaken out of that dream. That character never gets, it can't. There is nothing that character can do to awaken from that dream. Same thing with our brain. This brain, this body cannot do anything to awaken itself from the world of thought. It will experience an awakening. And same thing with that character in the dream. How it experiences that there's an awakening? When the dream is over. It's done. So when you dream, when your world of thought is over, meaning you are no longer entangled in the world of thought, your brain experiences that awakening. So the bottom line is that there is nothing to try. There is nothing to try. There's nothing to do to wake up from this dream. And then we talk about the state of surrender. Just a surrender. Surrender to the consciousness. And it will do everything. It knows what it's doing. Robert and Dave, any questions about this? Because we went over this many times in the past.
No.
You can understand what it is?
I can understand it. Experiencing it, actually having it happen, is totally a different matter.
Absolutely. Right.
I mean, just like I mentioned to you, I was reading Sermon on the Mount, and everything in it was exactly what we're talking about. And Jesus was saying this how long ago? This book was written in the early 30s, and I'm going, It's like, I was constantly getting, I need that again. No, wow. And I feel like,
Emmett Fox?
yeah,
I don't know him.
and I feel like I didn't have enough time. I had to get through this to get to the other end. I wasn't getting to the other end. I just kept going.
Yeah, you know how you run on a treadmill? A person that tries to transform herself or himself is like running on a treadmill. You run, you're in the same place.
Yeah, I haven't gotten anywhere.
And you can read a book while you're running too.
I
Right.
finished reading the book.
Right.
Good book.
Right.
Yeah, look up.
Right. Yeah, so this is what you're describing, is you read all this information and you want to run to this destiny that they talk about.
Yeah.
and you're running in a place like Richard said, you're running while you're reading a book, but you're still in the same place.
Exactly, that's sort of life. Because he actually says in there that coming to this conscious mind is the only worthwhile thing to do in your whole life. It's the only thing that's really worthwhile, is to come to that reality.
Right. That's the only purpose. You're not here to make money. You're not here to get married and perpetuate the life cycle. You're just here to be awakened. I'm talking about you personally, since this is what you believe. But every person in this world is serving their purpose. The person that's on drugs is serving his purpose. The person that's married and raising 17 children, she's serving her purpose. And every person in this world is serving their purpose. But collectively, just like you have a brain and then you have an unconscious mind, subconscious mind, collectively, so some humans form the brain, metaphorically speaking. Some humans form the unconscious mind. Some humans represent the subconscious mind. And some humans, like yourself, for instance, represent the conscious mind. Collectively, so everybody's needed. So the most unconscious humans that almost act like primitive, cavemen, right, are needed on the collective level as well. Because there is a collective human mind. There's a collective human mind. All of humanity is together collectively form this collective mind. So they're all needed. So when I used to want to change my cousins or my nephews or whoever comes for me for advice, I was always the person that's mentoring everybody in the family. And I would always tell them what's wrong, based on moral principles and moral standards. What's wrong and what's right, what to do and what not to do, and how to deal with life, and so forth. And then a few years ago, or more than just a few years ago, I came to the conclusion that they need to be what they are. Why am I changing them? They have a purpose, and they are fulfilling their purpose. The brain has a purpose.
They have their own
Conscious mind
guide,
has a
right?
purpose.
They have their own guide.
Yeah, right. Right, everybody has a purpose. Just like our brain. Our ego has a purpose. That's why we have an ego. And when the ego dissipates, it's just because the ego is done with its purpose. So when you look at humans, anyone in your life, so even the person that irritates you the most, or is giving you pain and struggle, that person is fulfilling her or his purpose.
I'm doing it to myself then.
Exactly.
I'm giving myself the most pain.
Right. Right. So even if your brain is causing anxiety or anger or anguish within you, that needs to be. It has a purpose. It's fulfilling its purpose. When you start having that attitude, that perspective of things, even about your own brain, that even the part of my brain that I don't like, that is struggling with someone or struggling with its own self, when I make peace with that part of the brain, you recognize that I am making peace with my brain. Therefore, I am not the brain. If I am making peace with my brain, then I am not my brain. Welcome to the road of awakening. That's a road sign. That's an indication. That's self-recognition. Then you come to think, wait a second. I am making peace with my brain. If I'm okay with my brain, if my brain is fulfilling its purpose, then who am I? Who is talking? Right? That's self-recognition, that I am beyond the brain. And then you come to realize that the word of thought is all about the brain. Even the brain itself is a thought. When we somebody asked me this challenging question. They said, some philosophers say everything is in our head. Everything that we experience might just be a hologram in our head. But somebody came and asked me, a friend of mine asked me, so where is our head? Think about it. If everything is in our brain, then what about the brain? Where is the brain? The brain is in the brain. So even the brain itself is a hologram. So I'm not saying that reality is a hologram. Reality is just patterns of experiences of the consciousness. But even the brain, even when we look at the brain, when we open somebody's head and we look at the brain, that's just a thought. That's just another thought. Even to say, I have a brain, is just a thought. It's all thoughts. But then where are those thoughts? Where do those thoughts happen? If the brain is just a thought, then what is incubating those thoughts? Where are those thoughts being produced?
Okay, I'll bite.
Turn the page.
Any understanding of that?
Just.
What's your understanding of that?
The thoughts are just these impulses and energy are flying around us constantly, and sometimes the brain picks up on.
Well, but the brain itself is nothing but a thought. The brain itself is a thought. You know, when we say that the notion of oneness, or that form is an illusion, the closest way to understand that is to say that which is scientifically backed, but that everything is a thought. Everything is a thought. The chair might not be what it seems, and quantum science is telling us that there is nothing in the form that is what it seems. Nothing is separate from anything, and everything is exactly the same. So when we see a chair, we see it's just thoughts, even the feeling of a chair. But say, I can touch the chair, I feel it, I can see it. It's only a thought. It's only a thought. But then we come to the last question. Okay, so all the thoughts happen in the brain. So is the brain a thought, or the brain is an actual bunch of 100 trillion cells? The brain is another thought. Whose thoughts are those? Where are those thoughts? Even if the brain is a thought, so where are those thoughts? How come we're experiencing those thoughts? How come there's an experiencer here? How come there is a consciousness aware of those thoughts? Even if the image that you see now is just a thought, there is an awareness of those thoughts. Where do those thoughts happen?
Consciousness.
Energy.
It's God. It's God's dream. Those thoughts are God's dream. They happen in God. They happen in consciousness. So they are all patterns of consciousness. Everything that you experience, every thought that you have, including my brain has thoughts, is just another thought. Including my brain is real, is just a thought. All of those thoughts are just patterns of consciousness, patterns of awareness. The experiencer, the ultimate experiencer, or the ultimate consciousness, is experiencing itself. That experience, those experiences, those patterns of experiences, how the consciousness is experiencing itself, the consciousness, which is you, that is experiencing those thoughts. It's just a consciousness experiencing its patterns of experiences. That's what the oneness is. A little complicated. It could be a little confusing because we're not used to thinking. Yeah, at one point I was going berserk with those thoughts.
Yeah.
But now to me, they're the standard reality. Any questions about that? Or
Did you question that?
any questions? But a good question. Yeah.
Where is aping in the situation here? Expecting.
All of this is AP. Because to know separatism, you have to analyze it. To know the difference between this and this, which is a state of separatism, you have to analyze. It's judgment. All of this is judgment.
Well, where's
Every thought
the
is a
expectation
judgment.
here then? Where's the expectation? What are we expecting from this?
Right, wrong, future.
Right, wrong, cause, effect, past, future.
The future is expectation, right?
Right.
Every thought
Okay,
of the
future is
future,
expectation.
every thought of the future is an expectation.
Okay.
Every thought of the future. So yeah, an analysis is what creates separatism. To think of past and future, you're analyzing because you're comparing. Comparing is analysis. When you think of a past event, the only reason why your ego, your subconscious mind is thinking of a past event is because it's comparing it to a present state. And it's trying to either feel bad or good about it. It's comparison. You can give me any thought of the past. You remember a bird flying. There is a reason why your subconscious has thought of that bird flying.